Guys, welcome back. So today we are recording an interesting program about SCO Summit, Shanghai Cooperation Organization. Let me show the picture how it looked. Something like this. Shanghai Cooperation Organization was formed by China 25 years ago to deal with security issues. 25 countries which were invited. And basically they're not just only China and Russia and North Korea or the founding members. There are a lot of countries which are neutral, like Turkey, like Armenia, like Azerbaijan, like Vietnam, like Indonesia. So those countries were considered to be neutral. A couple of points which I wanted to discuss. There are a lot of things which are related to politics and geopolitics and security, but there are a lot of things which are related to people who are trying to plan their life and maybe planning retirement or planning other things. Basically, for people who want to understand what countries are better for life, if you're traveling, if you're buying second home, basically from the point of view, from the practical point of view, not from the point of high politics, but from the point of view, what does it mean for me? So let's take a look and bring the points I prepared for this presentation. So first of all, what are the countries, right? What are the countries which are members, and what were the countries which were attending? And once we see the countries, you will see what's going on and you will understand why is it a big deal. So the primary countries, it's China, Russia, India, Iran, Pakistan, Belarus, Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Tajikistan, Uzbekistan. So those 10 countries. And remember, their primary goal was security. So fighting organized crime, fighting terrorism. That was the biggest concern in the beginning. And what else? They also fighting nationalism. So if there's a force which is threatening them, that they want to be able to collectively. So in other words, it's an equivalent of NATO in Europe. Not as strong, but basically it's an equivalent. It's a military organization dealing with security, or let's call it security organization, right? Let's take a look at countries which were invited, either observer countries or they invited just to take a look. Turkey. So Turkey is the member of NATO, right? Turkey is a regional power and in Asia. Egypt. Egypt is a big developing country in Africa. Malaysia. Malaysia is an important country in Asia. Maldives, Mongolia, Nepal, Vietnam, Azerbaijan, Armenia, they just signed the agreement, peace agreement, and hosted by President Trump. Bangladesh, Cambodia, Indonesia. Indonesia is a huge country. So if you're planning to buy a house in Bali, or you're interested in traveling to Bali, then it becomes interesting. What is Indonesia involved? And Bali is part of Indonesia. Laos and North Korea. North Korea, of course, it's everybody. It's under sanctions. So let's take a look and let's look at the ideas. What are the results? They can discuss things. There was a big parade. They made energy deals. And let's take a look. What are the consequences? Because we're interested in a practical point of view. If you want to retire somewhere in Thailand or Indonesia, in Bali, somewhere, let's see what is the practical aspect. If you're traveling worldwide, what does it mean for you? First of all, now it's very clear that China becomes a superpower. It shows that it's no longer an economic factory, it's now full superpower. They're proposing the new model of equal global governance. And in that model of equal global governments, they're saying, look, if the country is huge and they have nuclear weapons, or they're very developed, or the country is very small, they should be treated equally. Theoretically, those concepts exist in United Nations, but practically, if you're a huge country and you have strong economy and you have strong military, you can force your will on others. And they're saying this is not good. In the future, we should not have something like that. Second point, they made an agreement with Russia, the power of Siberia 2. They made a deal that gas through the pipeline, they're going to build a new pipeline through Mongolia, and the gas will flow into China. The gas which, remember, at some point there was a plan that Russia will use this gas in the Nord Stream 2. They're going to sell it to Europe. But after the war started in Ukraine, Europe said we don't want Russian gas. And so now Russia needs to sell it somewhere. And they made an agreement. For years they were negotiating that. And finally they were discussing what should be the path. And Mongolia had their own concerns. So now they finally made an agreement. They're going to sell a lot of gas, maybe half of the gas which we're supposed to sell to Europe. They're going to sell it to China through this new pipeline. And that means that China will develop their economy. They're going to use this gas for factories, for heating homes, for development. Gas can power a lot of things. Gas turbines can do a lot of things. And it will also be beneficial for Mongolia, right? So Mongolia, you're going to take a look that they will they're going to have a terminal and they will be able to improve their economy, right? So the new Power of Siberia gas pipeline deal with Russia will redirect massive energy flows eastwards through Mongolia into China. This will fuel China's economy for decades while making Russia more dependent on Asia and less on Europe. So again, it's beneficial for them too. Let's look at point number 3. China's nuclear triad on display. So basically during parade, China explicitly, usually countries try to hide it. Like for example, Israel doesn't show, they don't even admit that they have nuclear power. But China, they wanted to show that they have not only nuclear capable rockets, intercontinental like missiles. They wanted to show that they also have nuclear torpedoes they can launch from their submarines. They wanted to show that they have planes which can carry those. So in other words, triad means 3: the air, the ocean, and the land. So they have capabilities to place their missiles anywhere. And once you have that, there are only few countries which can afford that, like nuclear submarines which can launch the nuclear weapons, the ground-based hidden somewhere like in the shafts, and the rockets you can deliver through planes. You can launch through planes. So now China has it. So then they're saying we're the superpower. Let's look at point number 4. New players beyond old allies, right? So it wasn't just Russia and North Korea at the table. Countries like Turkey, Malaysia, and Indonesia, which are usually neutral, they're not aligned. Like NATO is part of the Turkey is part of NATO, but they're not aligned. They're trying to get the best deals with sometimes they deal with the West, sometimes they deal with China and Russia and India. That they're not aligned, right? So that on point number 4, even India, despite its rivalry with China, and India recently, the United States imposed 50% of tariffs on India because they buy in Russian oil. President Trump is trying to stop the war in Ukraine, and they are trying to affect everybody who is buying oil or gas from Russia because that's the money which are used for the war. So, but India is saying, look, but everybody else is doing it, and there are a lot of other countries are buying it. Maybe it's not called Russian oil or Russian gas, but through some third countries, Europe is buying it. America is doing some smaller, but America is buying the fuel for the nuclear stations. So they're saying, why we've been punished? It's not fair. So because of that, India said no, we're not going to be bullied. We're going to cancel our deal with United States for F-35 fighters, the latest and greatest stealth technology. They're going to say if we're going to be punished by United States, then we're not going to make deals with United States. 5th and very interesting point. I was listening translation of what President Xi was talking about, and he made I think it's going to be lost for many people, but he made an interesting point. He made a metaphor that he compared nations to plants in a garden, where large trees and small flowers all shall have equal rights to grow. This idea of equal between big and small states resonates strongly with Asia, Africa, and the global South, especially those with colonial past. So, for example, if there is a country which used to be French colony somewhere in Africa, they're thinking, wow, this is great. We want to be treated as equal. Our economy may not be developed. We need infrastructure. We need a lot of things. We might have gold and other resources, but we need partners which will be which will be treating us with respect as equals. So this is a very powerful statement, and a lot of countries in Asia, smaller countries in Asia, in South America, in Africa, they will be attracted to that. Let's take a look at point number 6. So the BRICS becomes an economic arm of the global south, while SCO handles security and regional power. BRICS is becoming the financial and economic arm with its new bank, currency swaps, and growing memberships. BRICS offers developing nations loans, markets, and trade outside United States dollar control. Targeting together, SCO and BRICS form new pillars of a new world order. So that is a very interesting point. So if you follow in the BRICS, which were founded by Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South America, and then they also have about 20 countries now, some very powerful Gulf states, United Arab Emirates joined. So there are a lot of economic opportunities through BRICS. And SCO, the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, they're going to offer the security. So what does it mean from the practical point of view? So from the practical point of view, again, let's take an example of some smaller country somewhere in Africa, developing country. China will be able to sell them a lot of military equipment. So let's say if they have some kind of terrorism problem or they're civil war, China will be able to sell them drones so they can patrol or attack the enemies from the sky, tanks, everything. And Russia can provide the training. They have mercenary groups which can, and a lot of countries in Africa already using them. They can bring their people, they can train, they can protect the government. And also China can provide a lot of economic opportunities. Through BRICS, through their banks, they can build roads, they can build ports. Russia and China together, maybe for larger countries, they can build nuclear stations. So if you have nuclear electrical power in your country, then all of a sudden you're no longer a small country, because once they make a deal, they also train the engineers. And for example, Egypt is building, Turkey is building nuclear stations, because remember, all those electric vehicles, they need to get electricity from somewhere. People want to live better and better. They want to buy electric vehicles, they want to buy appliances, electric appliances. Where are you going to get the electricity? Solar power and wind power can only go that far. So together, the countries from BRICS and China and Russia, they can provide a lot of infrastructure. Mostly China, they have more money, they can build roads. They can sell you all the equipment. So in other words, a smaller country somewhere in Africa can be fully supported, and they can grow into industrialized nation, maybe in 5-20 years, through this new organization. So it's very powerful what the BRICS and the SCO can offer, and a lot of countries will take that. Let's take a look at number 7. This is not a 0-point game. So in other words, a lot of developments for Asia, it might result in Europe's decline. The other side of this coin is Europe. Without cheap Russian gas, industries are collapsing under new energy cost. German car makers like BMW, Mercedes may survive by moving production to the United States and Asia, but many other companies will vanish. They will have to close factories and they will have to lay off people. Europe is becoming a boutique continent, good for luxury brands, tourism, and Swiss watches. At the same time, social tensions from migrations are fueling the rise of right-wing parties, adding internal instability. So, in other words, if you're planning to buy a house in Italy somewhere, or in Spain, or if you're interested to travel into Europe, or you have strong ties, maybe your ancestors are from Europe, and one day you want to buy a house there, or you want to travel there, and maybe you have friends. All of this development in Asia and rise of the global south, all of the gas which will flow into China, that gas will not be flowing to Europe. So what does it mean? That the cost of electricity will be very high. For people who run in factories, it might be prohibitively high, and they will have to shut down those factories and move them somewhere to Vietnam or to India or to United States, where people are buying those cars, where rich countries which can buy it, and also developing countries where electricity is less expensive, right? So So then Europe, it might create a decline. Already, like Chinese manufacturers of like build your own dream, BYO, or like the other, like China has probably, I don't know, like 20 or like 20 large companies which are building electrical vehicles. They decided that they're not going to build vehicles with traditional combustion engines, internal combustion engines. They're going to go straight to electrical vehicles. And where do you think they're getting the engineers and designers? Porsche, BMW, Mercedes, all the engineers, they've been recruited by China, and they're offering them great salaries, they're offering them research and development funds, they're offering them the possibility to build a new future where those electric cars will be much more kind of like they can make decisions which were traditional companies couldn't make. They can be much more experimental. And of course, for engineers, for designers, that's a great opportunity. So that's it. This is the development which we're seeing right now. So that's it, guys. I wanted you to take a look and think about it, make your own conclusions, watch the news, see what's going on, and think about it from the point of view of the personal intelligence. What does it mean for you, for your future? Maybe for a second house you want to buy, for retirement, or for travels, for economic opportunity. Thank you very much for watching it, and bye-bye.